Hey there, folks, and welcome to the season finale of The Score. This month, there's been a lot to cover, including the launch of Pokemon Go, all the news from San Diego Comic-Con, and the announcement of a new take on an old gaming console. We will also have a discussion about what to do if you want to start your own business, which should be enough to keep you busy until this show comes back next year. So, there's no time to waste. Let's settle the score. Let's kick things off with a totally rant story ripped right out of Nintendo Power circa 1985. And before you blast me in the comments, I'm well aware that Nintendo Power started in 1988. I'm doing a bit here. Fans rejoiced a few weeks ago when the Big N announced their new console, the Nintendo Entertainment System, with its revolutionary 8-bit graphics and jammed full of amazing games like The Legend of Zelda, Metroid, and more Mario games than you can shake a Wiimote at. This tubular pocket-sized gaming brick will not only be the top of every 30-something-year-old's Christmas list, but will also mean that our parents will finally be right again when they say, "What is this new gadget you want? Another one of them Nintendos?" That bit took a lot out of me. And while we're on the topic of Nintendo, they received a noticeable boost in stock prices when Pokemon Go launched, until investors realized that Nintendo actually owns very little of the Pokemon Company, and their stock dropped again, though not nearly as low as it was before launch. Still, pretty hilarious to picture a room full of stuffy investors realizing simultaneously, "Wait, Nintendo's name isn't anywhere on this game. We've been duped!" Because they're the type of people that feel would say pretentious things like duped. And to keep the Pokeball rolling on this topic, Pokemon Go has had quite the messy launch, with servers going down almost constantly and a very slow worldwide launch that led to a lot of people illegally downloading the game and causing even more strain on the servers, which, as one of those people, I can't say I blame anyone. They released the most anticipated mobile game ever without properly preparing for the server strain, and have since stripped the game of features in order to keep it stable under the strain they've now had weeks to prepare for. I don't think they understand how important it is for us nerds to catch thousands of Eevees and grind them into food in order to get a top-tier Flareon. You don't understand the struggle, man. The spirit of ripping through pack after pack of booster cards as a kid in order to get that elusive holographic Charizard is alive and well again. Unfortunately, there are negative aspects of the game's launch, though, as some terrible people have learned that they can use it as a means to be terrible. There have been multiple reports of criminals luring unsuspecting victims to Pokestops in order to rob or even kill them, seemingly for no reason other than it's an easy target. In fact, I even saw that over in St. Louis, Missouri, a group of degenerates basically became a real-life Team Rocket after luring at least 11 people into a hostile situation using the in-game tools. Now, I try to avoid real depressing news on this show, but seeing as this is a local story, I just have to say, why? Why take something so good and so helpful to people and use it in a way that makes it so easy to hate? It makes parents afraid to let their kids play, and it ruins the community aspect of it to where people are afraid to even go outside to catch anything because they might get hurt. What's the point? I'm sorry, it just makes me angry. End of rant. The Pokemon news isn't all negative, though, despite what Facebook and Fox News might have people think. A lot of good has come from the game already in a very small amount of time. War veterans and people with social anxiety have been given a new motivation to go out and interact with people and enjoy nature again. It's raised the spirits of terminal children in hospitals, increased pet adoption rates, and even just made sedentary people more active in a way that not much else has managed to do, including Michelle Obama's constant attempts to make health seem cool. Niantic, the developers of the game, are also responsible for a major nerd milestone by being the first game to have a panel in Hall H at San Diego Comic-Con. What's incredible about this is that the panel was originally scheduled for a smaller location, but they were forced to move it after interest grew beyond their grasp. At the panel, they laid out the plans for the future, such as trading missing Pokemon such as legendaries in later generations, and sponsored Pokestops as another means for the game to make money. Their first deal has already been made with McDonald's in Japan, as over 3,000 restaurants are becoming Pokestops or gyms. This is actually pretty incredible from a business standpoint, as many places, especially in downtown areas, already do discounts based around the game to drum up business, or will buy lures to place in order to get people in the door and stay for the duration of the lure, So this is really just another way for the game to profit from businesses that also profit, while the player doesn't really even notice a difference in game. That's how you do consumerism right. Well, until Trump becomes president and buys the game, renames it Poke-Trump Go, and you have to pay him directly in order to take down the walls he erected around each Pokestop. But that's worst case scenario, right? Right? Whew. That was a lot of Pokemon news. But let's transfer over to the other stuff that happened at Comic-Con now, which was loaded with announcements for movies and TV shows. Here's some notable highlights. The new season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., one of my favorite shows on television, is introducing a well-known comic book character, Ghost Rider. But no, Nick Cage isn't making the transition to television. This is a different version of the character. Robbie Reyes, a more recent addition to the roster of Ghost Riders, is a teenager with an affinity for souped-up muscle cars and a troubled family life after his little brother was involved in a tragic accident that left him in a wheelchair. Robbie is a more grounded character, just fighting to give his family a better life. So it'll be interesting to see him team up with S.H.I.E.L.D. to make that happen, and has me really excited for the future of the series. There was also a series of sizzle reels for upcoming Marvel projects, such as the Luke Cage, Iron Fist, and Defenders series for Netflix, which all look amazing. Though there wasn't any footage for Defenders, but the prospect still makes me tingly in my nerd spot. As well as new trailers for Doctor Strange and Guardians of the Galaxy 2, though that one sadly hasn't made its way online yet. They did tease the new Guardians team, which features newcomer Mantis and Baby Groot, as well as surprise additions Yondu and Nebula, who I imagine won't be a fully devoted member of the team, but I'm always on board for more Karen Gillan in my life. They also announced the identity of Star-Lord's father. Spoilers for anyone wanting to go in surprised. It's friggin' Ego, the living planet, played by Kurt Russell. I don't understand it, but it's made me much more curious about the movie. And I also can't wait for the porn version to see the effects for that kinky flashback scene. They also finally revealed who will be playing Captain Marvel, and it's Brie Larson, and Brooke and I totally made that fan casting like 2 years ago when they first announced the movie, because we're awesome. End of story. And for once, on the DC side of things, I actually came away excited by their trailers for Wonder Woman and Justice League. Gal Gadot has made a believer out of me, though I'm still worried the movie will come across too much like a depressing war documentary, and considering how early in production Justice League is still, what they showed looks pretty impressive. The guy playing Cyborg looks emotionless, whether it's on purpose or not, and I personally thought Ezra Miller's Flash was the weakest, most awkward part when they tried to use him for comic relief, but Aquaman actually looks cool, probably for the first time in his life, and the trailer gave me hope that Superman at least won't be ruining the whole movie. So, I mean, that's something, right? Hey, I'm a Marvel fanboy, so this is about as positive as I get toward DC on the movie side at least. Oh, and they also had new trailers for the next seasons of Arrow and Flash on the TV side of things, which looked good, as expected. And they showed off the TV version of Superman coming to Supergirl, and, I mean, he looks kind of like a generic, scrawny meat face, but do he got that booty? He do! And to finish up this roundup, they announced the first details for the first new Star Trek TV series since the canceled too soon Star Trek Enterprise. It's called Star Trek Discovery, is rumored to take place before the original series, and will be marking the show's 50th anniversary, which is an incredible milestone when you think about it. So, as the biggest Star Trek fan I know, I want to pass the reins over to my brother to discuss what Star Trek's legacy has meant to him.
So, I'm pretty old. I won't get into just how old, but between all the dates I'm going to throw out and, math, you can probably figure it out. So the first Star Trek series that I really watched on my own was DS9. Now, of course, there were a few before that. Next Generation came out in, I guess it was 87. I was probably not quite cognizant enough at that point to watch a series like that on my own. But I do recall the later episodes of DS9, and in particular, the entirety of Voyager, which is still my favorite to this day. They always say that it's basically the first of a series that endears you the most. So I recall the original episode of DS9 where Voyager launched. So I watched from DS9 from that point on, and all of Voyager, all of Enterprise, and then of course, like any good Trekkie, I went back later on and watched the rest of DS9, Next Generation, and maybe some of the original series. Honestly, I don't remember. Really, the only one I haven't watched is animated series, and I'm going to stick to not doing that. But of course, the overall fan favorite would probably be Next Generation or original series. And I think that is primarily because those were the series that had the most direct involvement by Gene Roddenberry, who is, of course, the original creator of the series. Mr. Roddenberry said, when he first pitched the idea of the original series, that he wanted it to be like a show called Wagon Train at the time. It was a Western. In fact, he pitched it as Wagon Train to the Stars. But he also said that every story would be told as one part adventure and the other part moral lesson. He actually saw it as a mix between Wagon Train and Gulliver's Travels, which is full of various fables. But you really have to think, when you think about the spirit of Trek, I think it's that moral lesson, and unfortunately that's being lost. And now I like the reboot series. I do. It's not Trek, really, to me. It's not Roddenberry's Trek, anyway. I mean, the United Federation of Planets was established as an ideal of what humanity could be. Not what we are now, but it was full of hope for what we could become. And I just think that's really cool. And we've kind of transitioned a little bit to more violence in, well, especially the new movies, but even some of the series like the DS9 Romulan War, the Xindi War in Enterprise, and there wasn't much of that back in the golden age of original series and Next Generation. It was there for sure, because they tended to like to parallel what was going on in the real world, which they still do. And some people could argue the world's just getting worse. But you also have to maintain that background of hope. And I hope that the new Enterprise series, Discovery, harkens back to that. If you watch the little teaser trailer thing they just released, which I don't even know if you call a trailer because it's pretty much just a ship flying by the camera really slowly. But it's still pretty cool, and they do show the ship's registry on the helm as it flies by, and it is NCC 1031. And for those who know really anything about Star Trek, the Enterprise, which is the flagship of the Federation of Planets, Starfleet, is NCC 1701. So they are numbered sequentially as the ships are commissioned, so it has to take place before that. So this will happen sometime between Enterprise and original series, and I think it could really give Paramount a great opportunity, or CBS, I forget which actually owns the property now, give them a great opportunity to go back to the formula that really started Trek out great. So that's what I really look forward to in this series, is bringing the hope back to Star Trek and showing what humanity can be, not necessarily what we are now. So.
Thanks, nerd. And finally, to end this season with a bang, one more Pokemon story that nicely bookends the Pokemon butt merchandise from the first episode of this series. My friend Wraith linked me to a product listing for Pokemon dildos called Pokemon, which, props are due, they are designed after various Pokemon and even have a convenient carrying case for when you're on the go. See what I did there? I have puns too. So, seeing as this is the final story of the final episode of the season, I'm feeling lazy and don't want to write a joke. Time to once again play Comment to Punchline. Winner gets a prize. And I promise it won't be a Pokemon dildo. I mean, unless that's what you want. No, still won't be. So, go ahead and write your best catchphrase for this nerdy sex toy in the comments below, and I'll choose a winner to tweet out with a choice of prizes. That's all, folks. I know this one went a little long. There was a lot that happened this past month, and there's plenty I still didn't cover. So feel free to bring up your favorite Pokemon Go stories or Comic-Con news down below, and we can discuss it there. Now, it's time to move on to a discussion about growing a business with my friend Majiczenith. If that interests you, click here, or follow the link in the description. If you feel satisfied, then have a wonderful day, and I'll see you when this series returns refreshed and so behind on news. starting next year. I just want to say a huge thank you to all that have supported this project, and it's because of you that it's going on break. I want to make sure that it's the best it can possibly be, and having time away will allow me to make those changes and come back better than ever. So I hope you're excited for the future, because I know I am.
Any business needs not only customers, but also partners and supporters.
It's really tough, so that's why it's important for you to get yourself out there. But I've also learned that there are good ways to get out there and bad ways to getting out there.
Okay, what are some of the good and bad ways? Let's do a pros and cons list here.